Hello, everyone. Welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul, your host, Bella Bella Souls Podcast. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri,
Oh, g'day.
Tanya Gates, and Red Powell.
Hey, everybody.
What up?
We got some cool things to talk about. We're going to talk about the new Horus Heresy stuff. I know that, we're very excited about that. Brand new edition, basically like the third
3.0. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The different things, talk about how to ease into that, maybe if you're just getting started. I also have a couple of Heresy armies, like a Admech and Angels, of course, because you can't not have a Sanguinius, when Sanguinius exist. So looking forward to seeing maybe how they will interact into that world. And if you're a Custodes player, can you still kind of cross into the...
Oh, yeah. Very easily. Very easily.
And then later in the show, I want to talk about my experience at the ATC. Was on a team with some great individuals, great friends, had a good time. We ended up coming fourth, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So let's dive into this Horus Heresy. Trailers are awesome. Miniatures are awesome. New Saturnine box set is out. Red, you're the one that probably plays that most actively. What are your first impressions?
So I was really excited, honestly. I was very iffy. We've talked about it. I've got a thing where certain amounts of like curves, I'm not big on like the Votan aesthetic, right? And like there's plenty of people, like if you like it, that's fine. I'm not sitting there dogging on it. It's just not typically the direction I go with things. And so like when we talk about it and you throw in the Saturnine Terminators, I like Cataphracti inherently just as it shows up. It's like boom, that is it's got this almost
it's
like
grittier or something, right?
Is it right? Yeah, it's got this blockier, grittier kind of look to it, machine industrial kind of deal. The Tartaros Terminators have a lot more curves, but the nice part about it's a whole thing there for you, Adam. I get it, but the Legion, I know it's. Thanks, Adam. The Legion aesthetics that you can add to them, they actually look really great. The different things you can add to it and the customization that goes into it. And so I was a bit concerned when they talked about reviving Saturnine, because the Saturnine look and how they looked and some of the older renditions of what you may have seen here or there, it's old school, but it's also like, how do we bring that into an age where Primaris Marines, like just that, we know that GW can make some of the most amazing models out there. So what are they going to do? How are they going to bring that together, right?
I was right there with you, Red. When I heard like musings and whispers and rumors that they were going to do Saturnine Terminators, I was like, oh, how do you do that sculpt without it looking derpy, top heavy, stupid? Like it's just like one push away from being a turtle and never being able to get back up on its feet again. Because that's been like so many arguments being like, how do these guys move? They've got an anvil on each shoulder, and
we've joked about like how Terminators in their heads sometimes they fixed it in the new models, right? The new models, you can see some of the how they're composed, and then when you look at Saturnine, it's like the mental image that a lot of people get just from what you've seen from the pictures. Like you're not sitting there looking at these new models yet. You feel like their shoulders go from above their head to like their knees, and you're like, what is going on? Like this is
where
ridiculous.
They store all the bolter rounds, like storm bolter rounds.
Well, I mean,
quick.
In like some weird idea of like how to like breach something or get through. Like you're like, oh, they're just like a walking fortress, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think the new models, I was really excited as I see the new models and as they started to come out. I think they did a great job. I think that the way that those aesthetically have been delivered, there's a whole thing in regards of like, well, where were these beforehand? Like, okay, get over that. Let's just jump the ship there and like keep going with these things are back in play and they're onto it. And what I really liked and what really did it for me was honestly the Dreadnought, because right? The Dreadnought, and then especially, Tanya playing Custodes, right? When you look at a Telemon Dreadnought and you look at the Saturnine Dreadnought, they're close cousins when it comes down to it, right?
Yeah, they definitely look like they're from the same generation of design, and I really, really like that. I just look at that Dreadnought and I'm like, there's so much room for activies on this guy. Like you could do so much with those shoulder pads, and I don't know.
Badminton.
Yeah. So like I even looked at that model, and I've not really done too much freehand besides like squad marks and stuff before. But even I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could
Yeah.
freehand something on there. Yeah.
There you go.
I do love the comparison with the Telemon, because the start, like it looks, the Telemon looks like the elegant, refined older brother, you know, the cultured older brother to the slab, meaty, mass produced Astartes, which is kind of what the comparison is. And I love that. I think it's fantastic.
Well, and the next part, when you start to see the models next to each other, like the Saturnine, legitimately, you could see it being the predecessor 10,000 years prior to what would eventually become the Centurion. Like that
true.
there's a jump there that you can see, and the scale and everything that it really plays into.
One note on this, at least for me, is that I don't think I've ever owned one of the original ones. I just saw them in a catalog, and seeing that in the catalog, it was like, wow, these existed at some point in time. People actually played with those. That was a thing in the game at one point in time, and it was always had this kind of like legendary status. And to be brought back into the game with such great detail, and then all the modern trappings of good detailing, areas for focus of artistry or just function, I think
Right.
is really cool.
Yeah, well, and so that aesthetic kind of locked it in. The other cool thing that I think comes in this box set is that we're talking about Mark II armor, and so like the marks have all
Yes.
been really exciting. And I've appreciated how they've kind of grown from where they started with Horus Heresy 1.0 to 2.0, and we've seen this really good development in all these different builds of all the way up to Mark VI, right? And we've seen different smatterings of Mark V, which is this kind of amalgamation of what was available. But Mark VI was the really big last one, and now they're going a step back to Mark II. And I've seen some really good, the fan base out there and how they've kind of brought it together. You see this more, we were talking about it a little bit in the show in a different regard, but with historic war gamers where in World War II, there were only certain tanks that were in play at certain points as the development of technology came forward. And by the time we get to the Siege of Terra, there is a healthy proliferation of Mark VI in certain regards because of how it got out. But then we go back to the Drop Site Massacre, there was still a healthy play of this Mark II armor. And so you're seeing that as they tried to kind of focus in on the Drop Site Massacre, and you're seeing Mark II armor still on the field. Adam,
also,
comment or long diatribe. Go ahead.
I also love, because different legions have different armor identities. Like they have different brands of armor that they identify with their identity, or that are able to push the aesthetic of that. And of course, Iron Warriors being the one that they've used in the box set box art, which is perfect for Mark II, absolutely perfect. And my own legion, the first legion, we had, was the oldest legion, the best legion, and much more likely to have older marks of armor in play than newer. In fact, almost exclusively, I'd say I can't think of a law reason they would have mass Mark 6. I can't think of a law reason with what they were doing around the time Mark 6 was coming out. They're on the other side
Mark
of the
6 was coming from Mars until some of the other Forge World started making them. And wasn't it the Imperial Fist raided
Mars to get it in time for the siege?
You honestly, you see more traitors with Mark 6 than you see loyalists out the gate, and so it was pretty interesting to see that development.
And yet Mark 6 aesthetic wise is a core component of things like Raven Guard, as in aesthetic wise with the beakies. And so it makes more sense thematically for you to have Mark 6 armor as the identity. And so you can look at a Raven Guard army from the outside of the table and be like, bang, Raven Guard. Even without the colors, it could be screwed gray, and I'd be like, more than likely it's Raven Guard. And so I like that legions have their armor identities as well. And I like, now that we've got Mark II in the mix, will they do Mark 1?
I mean, Mark 1 is the Thunder armor.
It is.
I love the way that looks.
If they can do Saturnine, if they can bring Saturnine back and make it look not stupid, just that's the benchmark, is just making it look not stupid. They made it look good, but just not stupid. They can.
Mark 1 is not enclosed. Like you can't go into space. I don't think with Mark.
No, you can't. It was because it was made for the Unification Wars.
It was Unification Wars. That's right. And so, I mean, it's so this box set, they also bring in disintegrators. As a weapon set, and so that's a newer weapon set that's being introduced to the game itself. It's always been alluded to in different ways of the story. We've read about it here and there in the lore, but it's cool to see that come into play. I got to say that the Saturnine weapon loadouts are pretty awesome in general. Like there's ones that can just straight up, both of their arms are the guns. Like they just they got Mega Man arms, and they're just big fat plasma cannons, and they bombard. Like in the game, they actually have blast templates, which is one of the beautiful things that I still love about Horus Heresy.
Wait a second. For those of you that are new to the game, blast templates are an actual template of plastic that you have to place over the models you wish to inflict harm on, and then it scatters around, and it may not land exactly where you want it to go.
So I'm not fully up on all the details, but I will be as soon as I get my hands on the actual rule book. But I will say that there is, and they've talked about it in the Warhammer community articles, there are some adjustments from what we knew as Blast. And what I really like about some of the Horus Heresy elements is that, we've talked about all these different editions and things like this. And I think 3.0 right now as it stands, from just everything I'm gathering and where they've gone with it, I think that it is one of the more accessible versions of Horus Heresy than I've ever. I'm not going to say it's the most because I haven't seen everything, but as far as how it goes and the kits that they have available, right? Like there's so many plastic kits now for Horus Heresy and the broad range that they have that is the most accessible for newer players. And so to introduce things like the Blast template, if you've never played this version before, for those people that played 40k 7th edition or one of the previous Horus Heresy editions, they've essentially taken where we were at with 7th and just evolved it along the way. It's as if, we've got two branches. We got 40k went 8th edition. Yeah, Adam, you're with me 100%, right? We went 8th edition, 9th edition, 10th edition. And then now we've got Horus Heresy. We are arguably in the 10th edition, if you wanted to say, 3.0 is where 10th edition is in 40k, right? Like it's that evolutionary chain.
It's got such different taste and feel. Like you really do kind of have to like to get stuck really in on it, and you can with this rule set. You can really have make some bespoke units. You could have special purpose things, and it seems this game seems to kind of reward you and let you live in that space a little bit more than the 40k does.
That's
and
right.
It 100%. I'm of the opinion that Horus Heresy needs to do this and always needs to do this, because otherwise you just, imagine us playing. It'd be like us playing 40k, but the only army in the meta is Space Marines. And how long could we play that before we got bored? Because essentially you've got every Space Marine Legion in action. Usually it's pretty much, I'd say like 90% of games is Space Marine as an Astartes on Astartes. How do we make that feel unique and different?
Right.
How do we actually make that feel like it's not just two cinder blocks smashing their heads together?
Right. So 3 things that outside of just Blast templates and what we talked about, right? So if there are 4 things, the first one would be Blast templates we talked about. Second, I guess we'll go 5. The second one's really quick and easy, but Titans. So Titans are a thing, right? Not just Legions Imperialis Titans, but I'm talking about like big Forge World Titans. Like those, they previewed some of the rules. They look great. They figured out how they're going to do void shields and everything. And like, that's a thing where a lot of times, right? So like I went to the Horus Heresy narrative event at LVO this last January, and we had 2 really awesome days of great narrative fights, and then the last day was this massive apocalypse game where there were Warlord Titans, there were Reavers, there was all this like massive Titan throwdown that just went at it. It was really awesome to see, and this game like just plays right into that. So that's the second element. The next piece, so they brought over elements from Necromunda, which I appreciate because that's like old school 40k stuff.
That's another one you get real stuck in on. Spend a lot of time exploring the actual theme of whatever your gang is, your force, and like you invest a lot into the individual characters and unit.
Well, we've talked about like how do you make leadership work as a mechanic, right? It's always been a thing that in 40k and Age of Sigmar and all these games, we've always been trying to play with these leadership mechanics. And in this case, they've broken it down into 4 different aspects. I mean, there's leadership, then there's also willpower, cool, right? Like, can you keep your cool in the middle of a fight? And then intelligence. And so you've got these 4 things, and you can be affected in different ways, and it allows for you to play with this. You can suppress people, you can cause panic, you can shock them, all sorts of things that play into it, which I think is a great element to kind of play with of how are you influencing the battlefield versus just making people take a leadership test. Oh, well, I'm not making you take a leadership test. I'm doing something that is affecting, okay, you're not intelligent enough. The models are not literally intelligent enough to endure whatever's happening to them or something like that. Some battle of willpower, that kind of
We've
thing.
all been there in the game.
Sure, yeah. And so
like, you just tell me how many models to pick up. It's fine.
Right. So that's one. The next really big one, I think this is probably my favorite in the new entry of it, right? We've seen this game, 40k or 30k or whatever, in all its different forms, have things like the psychic phase, or what have you, right? And the psychic phase is come and gone, and it doesn't exist right now as it knows. I'm not talking about the psychic phase in this. What I'm really talking about is dueling. So like there's this whole aspect, we talked about Sanguinius being on the field, right? Like there are Primarchs. There are all these like heroes that just like the whole battlefield, sometimes out of 3,000 points, this 140 point guy, somehow, like one of my favorites, Sevatar from the Night Lords, like the whole battlefield can wrap around some of these duels that they have. And so they've introduced this gambit system. It's not gambits like it used to be in 40k, right? Where with challenges now in 40k, but the gambit system in Horus Heresy, one of the things like they introduced it in the Warhammer community articles, Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors, has a gambit that essentially instead of going into the duel, he just tells the nearby unit to shoot the person that like he got into a duel with. He's like, I don't have time to deal with this. Whatever. Iron Warrior punks over there, shoot this person. And that's literally what happens. And so like that's what leads off with the duel. And so they just get shot up before they even go into the fight with them. And so it's this whole aspect of really showcasing and highlighting the duels between some of these different characters, which I think is great. I think it's awesome because in so many of the books we've read, how many times have we seen these showdowns? And they've really tried to build that into a mechanic and system of the game. So that's probably one of the most exciting because the box set there's a Saturnine Praetor and then there's like a Centurion. So if you were just to take the box set and try and turn that into a 1v1 kind of fighting deal, I'm sure most like I will want to take the whole box and just turn it all into one of my armies. But if you were to put those two against each other, it'd probably a pretty cool fight between the Praetor in Saturnine armor versus the Centurion. And like, what does that come out to and how does that change the fight? And so I'm really excited to see where we're going with Horus Heresy. They just dropped news on Warhammer Community about a legacy PDF. They've had these before. It's another one of those deviations where Horus Heresy, not like 40k. 40k has legends. There's a lot of great stuff out there in legends, but legends typically is not welcome in official
like match play stuff.
Events. Correct. Yeah, not in match play, right? However, I mean, even the Warhammer community article was upfront, like legacy units that are not going to be in some of the books and everything that they're going with. Legacy units are going like it's going to be available at the Warhammer like GW events. Like the legacy items will be able to come into that. And so that's cool. Like, and that will include things they've talked about. They're taking a route that I felt, I don't, not agreeing, disagreeing. I'm just saying they're taking a route very similar to the old world where they have like journals, Tactica journals and things like that. And so they're going to build the forces back up in 3.0 based off of those. And I'm really excited to see where that goes because, some of the things they've said, force organization, you can largely build out what you want. But currently, as the rules show, a big change from before, you can only have like 3 units in reserves right now. But I think that's going to adjust as new stuff comes out. Like a drop pod army hasn't really been highlighted yet, but I imagine that's coming in the very near future because it's just a thing. It's a thing that we all expect to happen.
It's an identity. Yeah.
Correct. And so
it's in all the books. It's in a lot of books.
It has been, and I expect it to come back in, especially the whole drop site massacre thing.
Well, yeah, it's not called the Tricycle Massacre.
That's
It's
right.
not like they rocked up on their trikes and they ran them all down.
The edge of the tabletop massacre.
So I'm not worried that we're losing anything from before. I think it's only going to get better, and I think that it's largely this I'm not going to call it a reset point, but the point at which we are entering 3.0 is a great accessible point for anybody else to jump into the game.
Well, like the Liebers they're going to have all the Primarchs and
Tons of
everything in it.
stuff.
Like it's like you're not going to be playing half a force.
Right.
When
It's
you get
just
to Liebers,
so in the Legacy article they talked about in Warhammer Community, they detailed pretty much by Legion what was going to be in there for some of the stuff, which having not seen the Liebers, which I did pre-order them, so I'm looking forward to seeing it, but by method of elimination, when the Legacy PDF says that Iron Havocs for Iron Warriors are in that, then I assume that it's not in the Lieber, which is fine. Like, I don't mind doing that initially as we go through it. It's just, if there's anyone else out there that's listening that has any like inroad on the on a 30k app, I love the Age of Sigmar app and the 40k app, and would love to support a Horus Heresy app for list building, because that would be awesome. But we'll get there, I'm sure, eventually.
Yeah, it's look. I think that you've raised a lot of great points about, because there is some concern out there that the game has changed, to a little bit maybe beyond what like maybe folks are wanting to accept. And I don't mean everybody by and large, but there's definitely some vocal out there about some resistance to some of the change. But when is that not the case?
It's a cycle, right? Every couple of editions we'll see a significant refresh or a change in ideology of rules construction, and that's just been the case kind of forever. Biggest jump off, first edition to second edition, and then we had fifth edition was a huge jump off point. Mm-hmm. Then we had sixth and seventh edition were kind of their own babies. Eighth edition was a massive change in the way all 40k games were played. And this is, I guess, what they're doing with 30k for this new new edition. And I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. I love what they're doing with the more nuanced, like I suppose leadership mechanics, and some of the more nuanced, like very like first and second edition old school like data sheet looking things. I picked that up and I'm like, oh, my nostalgia berries just tingled. What am I looking at?
It's a different style
Rogue
of game.
Trader? What's going on?
Yeah, and I think that like if you really can explore your Legion like in 100,000 different ways,
right?
And I think more so than you can in 40k. So I think it's and I don't mean like you can't, like you could build every unit in the Space Marine army, like you really can. But and even if you did, I'm not sure you would get the level of character involvement of named character, like storyline driven content that already comes packaged on the Horus Heresy side.
I'm really keen to see if we're getting new kits. Like we're getting, of course, I'm assuming everything that's going to be in the new box set will be coming out at some point individually. Like you can buy your Mark II pack of 10 guys off the shelf and stuff like that. But I'm interested in knowing where else they're going with new plastic kits for Horus Heresy, and whether they're going to be going even deeper into the mire or creating just brand new units.
Sure. Well, and that goes, so they talked about this a little bit again. This is the last big element that they introduced, which I think, so we saw things, Age of Sigmar, right, brought in elements that I thought, as they develop these newer, I'll call them newer games, they are building in things that then we've seen build its way into other games, right? So like Necromunda.
Like the engine, if an engine works, you might see it somewhere else.
That's right.
Yeah, like command points started in Age of Sigmar before they came over to 40k. Yeah.
That's right. And so one of these things, there's reactions has been this awesome thing that has continued to play into Horus Heresy that I think is a great aspect for the game. But this other, oh man, I just lost it. But when we're talking about it, like I know it's the other parts of Horus Heresy and what we can do with the game and where they go. So like Force Org, this is not where I was going with it, but with the Force Org, you can build out however you want. When you think that, we talk about chapters, right? In 40K, a chapter of Space Marines is 1,000 Space Marines, right? And not spoiling on any lore or whatever, but like Gilliman showed back up, right, to do the Indominus Crusade, and was like, maybe probably should have more than 1,000 Marines around to do stuff, because we need them. Like, when you think about it, there were like over 400,000 Ultramarines at one point. And so the ability for you to go and build out 3,000 points, which is still possibly only a few, like just a small group of them, you you're just a percent of a percent of a percent of the amount of Ultramarines that are out there. You can make whatever you want. They could be however their character goes about it. And so the ability to run with that and like build your own thing is what I think is one of the coolest parts about how we go about this.
We got to get fact checkers on this show, because you said, like Adam said earlier, that the Dark Angels are the oldest legion. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's true. And you just 400,000 Ultramarines, and I don't know that that's true.
Oh man, so I've done some of it, and like looking at, and some of it goes back to, and I always love the debate about canon stuff, because different books, right? Like the black books that came out, that was originally like the hardback books for Horus Heresy 1.0, amazing amounts of
lore. I love those. I love the extra lore that got sewn into those books.
Right. And so one of my favorite, the Thramas Crusade, which is Dark Angels versus Night Lords in a lot of it, right? In that book, it talks about numbers of how many, like over 100,000 Dark Angels, over 100,000 Dark Angels were lost in that war between those two legions. And there were over 100,000 Night Lords that went out, which you have to assume, because there were so many more Night Lords at the Siege of Terra, and then there were also still plenty more like out on the fringes.
100,000?
Oh, I'm not kidding, man. Like it's a massive number. I mean, and then when you take into account, like we're talking about 100,000, whatever, and then just go back to some of our historicals and the casualty rates that we saw just in a couple years of World War I or World War II, right? And like we're talking millions of people, right? And so like when we talk, it's always funny.
You're talking about over the life of a battle, and not
correct, not like
one
single event. Correct. Yes, yeah. Because that's the Thramas Crusade was a larger period of time during the Horus Heresy of like the Lion trying to hunt down the Night Hunter and all this back and forth and everything that they went through. And so, but there are like a lot. Well, it's just this crazy number to kind of throw out there as we think about how many Chaos Space Marines are just kind of hanging out there in the eye. And you start reading some of the 40k lore, and all of it starts coming together. So to Adam's point, I mean, Son of the Forest, the book more recent one.
Yep.
Like they do a really good job of tapping back into some of the old lore of the Dark Angels, where it talks about like there's this one Space Marine. I won't go into any of the real details of it, but he essentially is reciting their history to a certain point of where like they were doing stuff in the dark reaches of space on behalf of the Empire before some of the other legions were
correct
mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, it's just cool to like piece all this stuff together, and then to play 30K and kind of have a part of that and be a different part of that, and like where you're going to be at in these different aspects of it. I'm personally, so I've got, I play a Loyalist Iron Warriors faction that I have, and then I have a very much so traitorous Night Lords faction, and I'm very excited, especially with the newest journal that's going to come out is going to be the Drop Site Massacre, and I'm going to like my Night Lords will have been at the Drop Site Massacre, and so to like grow that thing out, like where they go, because I've got all the headcanon that I want, of course, for myself from that point where I've got them, elements of them in 40k. And so like how they space from that point to this point, it's been a lot of fun to flesh a lot of that out, because it's all just filling in the gaps as I've played games with people and gone to different narrative events and kind of fleshed it all out. So it's been a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, Saturday Night Box Set is still up for pre-order. You can also pre-order the Mark II Marine kit right now, mentioning yes, they do get their own kit, so you can flesh out your forces, start forces. It is a good time to jump in as people are going to be learning the new stuff, and I think it's absolutely awesome. There's a whole lot of steeped in the lore, and it's like you can make every battle mean something. Like you can even play through the novels as you're reading them if you want. Like again, there's like almost like a no end to the amount of importance that you can apply to whatever game you're playing, and I think the system rewards you for kind of loving on your models that way. So,
absolutely.
More to come. We'll see y'all. Actually, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk about some of the ATC stuff that happened this past weekend. See you in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, we are back. Thank you very much for checking out our sponsors. Please do that. Please also like us. Go in the comments right now and fact check that whole oldest legion and like 100,000 people or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
because
I'm right.
No, like I do believe you, but I think that's those hidden gems of lore from like the difference. Like I've read a bunch of codexes, and I will say that sometimes the lore in the codex, I don't want to say like I instantly forget it, but it just doesn't seem to have the same impact as like the lore in these Libers have had, which is pretty interesting to me. But in any case, this past weekend, y'all heard us talk about it a couple weeks ago. I talked about my list a couple weeks ago, and told you about playing. It was a team event, playing the 8-person teams. The same time that the 8-person team was happening, it was a 5-person team event happening. And I will say, you could definitely tell there was a difference in the vibes of the event. This is no shade. Like they're both great events, but like you could tell that like the 5-player event seems to kind of evolved into like a heavy like spirit fun, devil may care type event. And
I actually have like the best analogy for what 5-man teams feels like to me playing them. So for me, 5-man teams is like going to Chuck E. Cheese.
I like where this is going.
And you're all working together to get the most tickets so that you can cash that out and get a big wad of candy at the end.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like again,
nailed it.
I know they're awesome players over there, and then the 8-player team event seemed like it was, everybody's there with one mission, and that mission is to take the heads off their opponents. Which, again, I love both those sides, and we had a great time. Had a great team. We ended up playing the team that won it all in round 1, so that means we lost round 1, but then won every other round. So, hey. At the end of the spoiler, but at the end of the event, we're playing for what is basically going to be 3rd place, or what potentially could be 3rd place. We did win our last round, but the 2nd place team didn't lose as hard as they could have, and the team that was right, I think, below us into it won real hard or whatever. We won a little bit in the middle, and so got. The 3rd place team had more game wins overall, like the tiebreakers and things lined up for them, which good on them. Congratulations. Like this is one of those things. It was just nice to be playing in contention and competitively the whole way. In 20 teams of 8 that were there.
Great result.
Oh, thank you. Then just round 1, I got a parent to Death Guard. I actually played pretty well into Death Guard. Obviously playing against a great player, this, again, on the team that eventually went out the whole thing, and Death Guard are a tough list. I know Death Guard. I play Death Guard. I've played against Death Guard. So I was able, and I didn't get to pick my pairing. I actually got force paired into Death Guard at the very end, which is fine. I thought, well, eventually they'll filter out and it'll just take whatever happens. As you know, I was playing a list that could trade really, really well, and it had a couple of hammer units, and just aesthetically, put Mario on the table, I really, really liked how it looked. Like I felt like,
that's the first box ticked.
Yeah. No, just like because that's the first time I'd taken the new units that I'd painted that I've not played in an event with are like I had another squad of 10 Death Company that were built off the Primaris Death Company. I just painted an Astorath that I'd not taken out separately. I'd done some conversions on some Firstborn Death Company to make the 2nd unit of Death Company. I had added, this is the first time I'd ever really, the 6-person Blade Guard, so I had a lot of new things that I had not really gotten out there and put in people's faces before, because I had not played this particular configuration of a list before. And I felt like it looked pretty good.
That's it. It's one of those. I mean, Adam, you said the first, block check there, but really it is like it's one of those things that just kind of reduces a lot of tension showing up to the event, having your army painted, ready to go.
And also, I also think it goes beyond that, and that in the last 2 editions of the game, we've started having 2,000 point armies that look like they should, with a good delineation of infantry, vehicles, monsters, characters, stuff like that. With some exceptions, you still got a little bit of Hero Hammer and Thousand Suns this edition, and some other bits and pieces. But for the most part, like, armies look like armies. They don't look like the absolute dog's breakfast that we had in 7th edition, or the min-max we had in 8th edition. 9th edition, 10th edition, you've actually really started getting forces that look good. They look like a freaking a force. They're not just this good thing as many times as I can, as legally possible, which is what many previous editions have been.
So I lose round 1. It was one of those to where it was going to be a difficult matchup. Obviously, again, great player, played against in a very hard list. I went first too, and really would have preferred to go in second, which is kind of like some of the stories of that bottom turn scoring, and with the challenger mechanic is I think can be pretty strong, have some big swings in that. But there was one turn I just really couldn't, like, I got punched off or shot off the primary, so put me in a good spot or a bad spot. Ended up getting some points. I think it was like 14-6 or something or whatever. So not the end of the world.
Do you want to know?
Yeah,
I was going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing the stats for the event. The event later. 6. Yeah, 14-6.
Yeah, 14-6. So not bad. Certainly not a bad showing, I don't think, against being force paired into Death Guard. And if I really wish, like, again, the with the benefit of foresight, we actually got some of the matches that we wanted. Maybe we were just really wrong, but it did set us up for in going into the next game. I played against World Eaters, and this was an interesting one. For some reason, I just kept thinking the Forge Fiends were not going to do as well as they do.
Oh.
I'm like, certainly he can't roll all those hits again, right? You can't think he could. He could. He really could.
So there's a very interesting subset attack, especially when you're running a couple of big 10-mans, like big bruiser units. You almost have to run a unit of 5 guys in front of them to stop the Forge Fiend from obliterating.
That's actually what I kept doing. I kept running up one 5-man unit in cover, and I'm like, oh, come on, just give me one model left, and then flipping the game, and it didn't work out that way. And again, also had bottom of turn, so we were able to. And he also was the challenge. I'm a believer in the challenge mechanic, by the way. I think it's actually pretty cool, but 9 points and bottom of turn was like ended up being like 11-9 against me.
Oh, yeah. So my only criticism of the challenge mechanic is that it doesn't take into consideration the tempo at which different armies play. There are so many armies that only build to play the back 3 turns of the game anyway, and so are disproportionately advantaged by the challenger mechanic versus 2 combined arms that play 5 even terms of play.
I think this is the best mechanic, the catch-up mechanic that we've had so far. I think
it is still the best
playable.
one.
It's very playable. Yeah. You got some things. You feel like you're in it. Like I'm not. This is not me disparaging it. And just in this instance of 3 turns of being the challenger and going second, and so getting bottom turn scoring, and also me sacrificing at least 4 units to Forge Fiends was a little too much. It ended up going 11-9. The next game I played against Necrons. I didn't pick a single matchup, by the way. I think I either got force paired or got chosen in these, which is fine. This is not that's the way the beast. And I built my army to be able to play into any situation. And if we just happen to get a favorable matchup, then great. Played against Necrons in the 3rd game and ended up getting a draw. And there was one turn, like, how we've all played this game against Necrons, to where you go into them and you don't kill a single one,
and you brick. Yeah.
That is exact. Now he had the Silent King, and I can play I basically ignored the Silent King. I had the Silent King chasing a couple of units of scouts in the corner, for most of the game, and ended up like, oh, I can kill this Doomsday Ark and whatever. did not kill a Catacomb Command Barge, did not kill a Doomsday Yard, and they're like, well, let's just shoot some stuff, Paul. I'm like, oof, don't like the sound of that. But I will say that, going into when you see those 2 units of Wraiths, you know that they're going to be backed up by some Cryptex, and if you get the Cryptex out of there, then you got it. Well, Mephiston makes an 11-inch charge. He heroically intervenes his Cryptek and race into Mephiston. Mephiston's like, epic challenge, batted that Cryptek into the sun.
Nice.
Very satisfying, extremely satisfying.
Oh, like cracking any piece of the Necron puzzle is like one of the sweetest treats in little snacks in the meta in the edition. Sorry, I was going to say in the meta at the moment.
Yeah, and this is the same turn. I get the Blade Guard and the Judicar over there, and of course, like, how about we precision this guy out as well? So basically gutted those units of race in the first. I think it might have been the first turn, might have been second turn, and then it's just playing a game. But ended up getting a draw. So, opponent played great. I mentioned, of course, the stonewalling on the saves, but that's one round. Had to be, the rest of it was pretty good. And wrestled a bit. And then in game 4 and 5, I played Blood Angels against Blood Angels. And I don't know, I think they probably looked at their list. They're like, oh, we've got a traditionally strong list. We can beat this Blood Angels list. And my Blood Angels list kills those Blood Angels list all day, twice on Sunday. And that did happen twice on Sunday.
They're all MS. So the current meta Blood Angels list is full MSU. There's no big bricks. But in the mirror match, the big bricks ragdoll the other squads, because you need okay, cool. You need 2 squads to go in and think you're going to kill my unit of 10 DC with Lamardis, and but then you expose yourself to interrupts, you expose yourself to heroic intervenes and fights first, you expose yourself to all these things when you try and use 2 assets to remove 1. And so, yeah, 100%. I think in the mirror, I think you got the better play of it.
And that's what happened. And I will say it's like it's like one of those things when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and so when you're playing Blood Angels, it's like you just have to force yourself to be a little patient, and your opponent will eventually crack, and they will come out, and then you can grab them. And that's what happened. So both, good games. They played well, but it was a situation exactly what you're talking about. It's like if
you won the only games that mattered because you established your dominance as the Blood Angel player in the field. That's it. The other ones, whatever. Death Guard,
they were thinking like, oh, got this list, this non-traditional list. What are they thinking? Like, well, a lot of attacks coming out of these Death Company, and sometimes devastating wounds is really good. And Blade Guard. Yeah,
sometimes I agree with Tanya.
Blade Guards. I'm sitting here next to more boxes of Blade Guard, and I had to think about itself. It's like, if these were built, would I have taken more Blade Guard? And the answer might be yes. So I got them out here to tempt me to see if I would have built 6 more and get them on the table. But it was they did really, really well. And I was worried about them not being in a transport, because up until this point, I've been historically running them in a transport. Didn't need it. Didn't need it at all. Especially when you got a little bit of agency in picking the tables sometimes. So the way this worked, you could pick the layout or the mission, and whoever picked the layout didn't get your choice of 2 missions. So between those 2 things, that seemed to be all I needed to keep the Blade Guard relevant each game. And I don't regret including the character the Judicar with fights first, of course, while they're leading the unit.
It's a great one.
Precision on a really nice sword. Don't regret that at all. And I had a good time. Team, we lived and died as a team. We spent a lot of time. We played some, board games and stuff we basically took over a corner of the hotel lobby, respectfully, of course, and played board games all evening and hung out. Really had to get some good fellowship as a team, and then got there and performed pretty well. It was really nice.
Fabulous.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, can't argue finishing 4th. We had a G-Stealer Cult player who went into the last round against the anti-infantry Tau list. We're like, well, good luck. But ended up pulling out 9 points, which is, I think, helps us out a lot, which was nice. we were running Subterranean Assault Tyranids, which we kept running them into things that was going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Was, but
I've heard such differing reports of Subterranean Assault Nids. I mean, obviously the two new players are just having the time of their lives because it's just such a fun detachment and way to play them. But then I've had people saying this is the strongest thing since sliced bread. This is the best. This is the bee's knees. And other people being like, it's okay. So, and
I think in a singles list, I mean, of course, you could have a good run where you never play anything that counters it, but there are things that counter, like fighting first counters it pretty hard.
Yeah, well, it depends what you build at what's coming out of the holes. I mean, every list needs like the ability to create the holes, but then what are you deploying from set holes? Are you going for shooting? Are you going for melee? Are you going for a bit of both? And then when you're going for shooting or melee, what profiles are you trying to hunt? Because much akin to demons, you can pick the right gribbly for the occasion, but you got to pick correct. If you don't pick correct, you don't do diddly squat. Like people taking the DACA Carnifexes coming out of the holes with old one eye and stuff, and then you play into Grey Knights and they've all got 2-up saves and they don't care about your strength 6 AP nothing, and you bounce. And then when you charge, you're charging into 2+ saves or invulns on Dread Knights and you bounce. And so but then if you would do the same thing but take 2x6 Zoanthropes, you just put those dudes in the ground, like come out of a hole, deleted. Two dread knights down, and I'm gonna bring out a screening unit in front. I'm gonna jail you with something so you can't get to the Zoes. They're gonna go back down a tunnel, out another hole, blow you up from the other flank, stuff like that. So they just have to come correct, as I think the term the kids would say.
Yeah. And so we had 2 knights, had Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights. And I think we got a little cute with our list, but there were distinct choices as to why we got a little cute with the list. And then seeing how some of the other teams did, I think right now, if you're not playing with 3 atropos, you kind of have to ask yourself why. Like if you have access to 3, you should probably be playing with 3.
Yeah, so few people have access to 3 because you never needed more than 1 ever, and it was an expensive forge wheel not in the past. I'm sorry, it still is. It still is an expensive.
Yeah. And on a team event, like several of us are night players, we all have 1. We could just like load up.
See, most night players have 1. Who's got the 3 to track together? And the slap can, you got to slap Canis in there as well, and then the rest of the list doesn't freaking matter. But yeah.
You know what? From a visual point of view, that is acceptable. That is like acceptable borrow hammer. If they all look different, because knights would all look different.
It would, yep.
Yeah.
So knights is either they're all exactly the same or all completely different. Anything in the middle is incorrect as far as Adam's humble hobby judging opinion. Yeah.
I will say, playing Blood Angel players, you get to keep yourself honest on the rules. It's like, like, don't forget you're this, don't forget you're that. Like the good stuff. Like, don't forget you had this other cool thing you weren't doing. Which is fun. But yeah, I played against fabulous opponents. Played great with the team, and I loved the interaction between the different teams as you are going through the event. It was a real good time. Went to some cool places to eat. Went to a pizza place. There's this restaurant right near the vendor hall, not the vendor hall, the convention center that we like going to. Kind of like a kind of elevated Southern food place.
Sounds delightful.
No, it was a good weekend. Would do it again. Would play the same opponents if I could. I had a good time playing them. I would hopefully for some different results in some of those games, but at the same time, people that I would play every one of those games, I would play the person again, which is a cool thing to walk away from an event with. Thanks for letting me rant on about it a little bit.
That's great. Sounds awesome.
And an honor to play with the team again. They really did well. And looking forward to the next one. Some of them are already playing in their next team event. I can't go with them to that one, but there's some other that's one of the things that we try to do is try. So how many of these events can we go and play as a group, because it's real fun. This weekend, when you're hearing this right now, when this comes out, I will likely be doing some live streaming from Tacoma, Washington, for the Warhammer Open that's happening up there. It's going to be a giant one. You don't want to miss it. Tune in to Twitch or YouTube on the Games Workshop Warhammer Twitch to hear some Warhammer event coverage. This is
going to be awesome.
Hope so. Adam just had to drop, so I'll say goodbye on his behalf. But Tanya and Red, do you want to got anything to add before we wrap this up?
I just want to say that teams really is the most fun way to play. And if anybody ever gives you the opportunity to play on a team and you've not done it before, like, don't second guess your ability. Just go and have fun and learn from the people on your team and your opponents. And
even 2-person teams, like look for them in BCP
Yeah.
to see if they're happening in your area. It's a fun thing. It's fun to go and like share in either the victories or the defeats, and whatever, and get ready for it and plan for it. It's a different exercise. It's real fun.
Yeah. And you always have somebody to go for lunch with. That's my big thing. I always got somebody to hang out with. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, seriously, thanks everybody. Don't forget to tell us, how right or wrong we were about naming some of these significant events in the lore past. Check out our sponsors. See what's up over there on the pre-order page if you are so inclined to get that stuff while it's still available. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.